Motor racing is tough, and there is absolutely no suspense in that. Apart from having the hunger and the skill, one also needs to be fit in order to succeed. And being fit doesn't just involve physical fitness. It also requires the drivers to have a mind like a monk.
Motorsport is probably one of the few sports which is more mental than physical. One of the best probably comparisons would be like what it is being a fighter pilot in a dogfight, because you have to be aware of what's going on all around you.
Mental strength is probably 90% of the game, and if you don't have that mental strength, you can't work on yourself to improve your physical strength. A racer who can't control their emotions, a racer who's not able to mentally prepare themselves for a race or a qualifying session or whatever, is not going to do really well. Pressure is something that is there in any sport, and more so in racing, because over here, a small little mistake can probably be the difference between life and death. So that is an added pressure that is there on any racer who's out there.
I think the word controlled aggression is important in racing. You know, you don't want to be a pushover, and therefore you need to have a little bit of aggression about you. But there's no point freaking out. There's no point having a meltdown. You know, I see lots of young kids racing here. You know, it's their first, second year of racing, and they're completely freaking out because somebody overtook them or bumped into them, and you know, I think back and laugh, because sometimes, you know, a while ago that was me. But over time you mature, you grow up, and you realize staying calm and keeping your wits about you goes a long way in the sport.
You're driving at like 180 plus kilometers, and you're braking at 75 meters before the next corner, and you're slowing down to almost like 80 or like even lesser in just 50 meters, and that takes some courage and skill level to achieve that, and that definitely has a really big toll on your mental abilities to just overcome that fear.
Aiming to be mentally strong is one thing, and achieving it, well, it's easier said than done. It requires a proper method, and every racer has their own template to master it.
Preparing yourself mentally is a combination of various things. There are a few exercises, obviously, like maybe, you know, visualizing what you're going to go out there and do on track. Meditation is something that is very important to get your focus up there. I've done things like, you know, you lie in a room and then you look at a fan rotating, you pick one blade and you follow that fan's blade as it rotates, and then slowly as you get more focused, you should be able to, you know, Formula 1 drivers, for example, would be able to follow a fan blade when it's going at full speed. And it's not only about exercises, it's also about how you prepare yourself mentally.
I visualize before my races, I visualize the laps, I visualize different scenarios in the race. Also try to visualize sometimes back at the hotel after looking at my data and my video. I feel I should have done something differently. So before going to the track and doing it the next day, I sit and I visualize doing it the right way. I mentally rehearse it before I go out there and do it.
Before going into the race, very important to be to have a steady breathing, to not have an elevated heart rate before you're in the car itself. And once you come out of the car, very important to spend the first 5 or 10 minutes reflecting by yourself rather than talking to multiple people about multiple different things.
See, mental exercises are something which have to do more with calculated aggression when it comes to racing. It is not only about aggression. Aggression can take you places, calculated aggression will get you podiums. So that's the major difference. And in order to get that ability to do calculate and then be aggressive about the race is something which comes to me after meditation. It just gets me all calm and composed, and I'm able to have the laser focus that I need.
We have just seen the importance of mental strength in order to survive in this extremely challenging environment of motorsport. Only those that are able to do this day in and day out are the ones that finally achieve long-term success in the sport. Our next story is the perfect example of the same. Aged at around 75 years old, Mr. B. Vidya Prakash is a daddy among racers. With over 50 years of competitive experience, he is currently India's oldest racing driver.
Around 1967, there was a race organized in Coimbatore, again at the Sulur Air Force Base, and when I heard about it, I was a college student, I was driving an old Fiat, so I thought I should take part in it. So I made my entry. The first entry was September 1967. I got started then, and it was something very exciting for me to do then, and even today it's the same for me. One of my most memorable, exciting race was a car that I entered, Spitfire, Trans Spitfire, that was a heavier car with a lesser engine capacity than a single-seater with a bigger capacity engine, driven by the big-time hero driver of mine, was from Bangalore, Mr. Jairam. So excited to be in the grid with him alongside. So when the race started, he took the lead as I expected, but I found myself on the second lap passing him. It was one of my most memorable races. When I finished, I was quite comfortably ahead of him to win the race, and it's one of my most memorable even today. It's certainly mental for me, the sport, but physical fitness is very important, no doubts. I think of myself as a mechanic first and driver second. So what I like to do is when I try out some changes in what I think are improvements in my car, I can't wait to come and see how it works out. So I keep testing myself, testing my car, comparing it with the others. In fact, when I'm racing here, I'm racing mostly against myself. Very little, unless somebody is aggressively racing with me, it's most of the time I am racing by myself. I am seeing how my car does well, what problems could be there, and how do I improve it over the next weekend. The boys who may be ahead of me are my motivators. The boys behind me who are racing behind me and they are trying to push me and try to go past me, they are the ones who keep pushing me and keep me going. So I don't think about my age or anything. I feel I am equal to any kid who races, maybe faster. It is thanks to car racing, I think I keep myself fit also. I don't know, if I wasn't racing, what would I do to keep myself fit? I probably wouldn't do it. So thanks to, in a big way, a big thanks to motorsport, I keep myself fit.
While the evergreen legends like Vidya Prakash are a great motivation for the young racers in never ever giving up, the story of a former national racing champion, Mr. J.D. Madan, will help you understand a racer's psychology and their unconditional love for driving.
I learned how to drive when I was 9 years old, but I wasn't allowed to drive on the road till I got a license, till I was 18. It was very frustrating, but when I was 18, my father took me to the racetrack and they were racing Maruti 800 and I started racing in that. And the first day they told me to go around and not use the brakes. I said, great, what's the big deal? And so I just went around in one gear, and the whole day, maybe 100 laps, they just made me go around like really slowly. I couldn't understand what was going on. And the next day, they said, okay, now you can use your brakes. And on the second day, I came into a corner, turned the car, pressed the brakes, which is, you should never press brakes in a corner, anybody. You have to finish your braking before. And I pressed the brakes and the car rolled on my second day. And ever since then, it's been really fantastic. Just great. That's how I started. And yeah, then every day just driving single-seaters, saloon cars, and yeah, just great fun. Because my only interest is how to go faster. That's all I'm interested in, nothing else. So most people think because I'm a racing car driver, or I used to ride motorcycles, I go to the racetrack, that my accident happened because I'm a racing car driver. My accident happened because the car I was in didn't have a seatbelt. And that's why I had a spinal cord injury and I'm paralyzed from like the shoulder level down. So I cannot stress how important it is to wear your seatbelts. Whenever I meet anybody, I always tell them, you know, I'm in this chair because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. I used to spend a lot of time on the racetrack, and Volkswagen gave me the opportunity. They said, would you like to drive a race car? So, I mean, that never happens. Nobody ever gets offered that. So I said, yeah, I'd love to, you know, but my whole body is different. And Sirish offered me an opportunity. We set up hand controls, and I'm telling myself, you know, body is different, don't try and do anything funny, you know, go slowly, build it up. And we got into the race car, first lap, second lap, slow. By the third lap, I'm going so fast, feels like I'm going faster than I used to go before. Because I don't know what my body can do. But it was great, we just built it up slowly, and I forgot that I can't move. I felt normal. It was a great experience. And we did it a couple of times after that, and I never want to drive on the road again. The most important thing is to go faster than what you went the last time. It doesn't matter what the other guy is doing. You have to go faster than what you did. And then you're limitless. Nobody can really hold you back. Have fun with it. Really enjoy yourself.
To be a champion, you have to be fast, you have to be consistent, and you have to be incredibly relentless. And that is something that each of these drivers on this year's AMU Cup grid must do in order to win this year's championship. But before we show you some of the exhilarating on-track action, let's take a look at the format and regulations of this year's Volkswagen AMU Cup.
In essence, the Volkswagen Championship is divided into 4 rounds. Now, each round will have either 2 or 3 races in it, with a total of 11 races in the entire season.
There are 2 categories of drivers, the overall and the junior category. All the juniors are a part of the overall category, but the eligible senior drivers will not be a part of the junior championship. The highest ranked junior gets the maximum number of points in the junior category, and they also get the points according to their finishing position in the overall class. The race winner gets a grand total of 50 points, and 2 points are also awarded to the driver that gets the fastest lap.
In the case of a race weekend with only 2 races, the qualifying session on Friday will determine the grid order for Saturday's race.
The driver with the fastest lap time starts first, and the driver with the second fastest lap time starts second, and so on. the results from the first race will be taken and the reverse grid rules will be applied to determine the starting order of the next race. The reverse grid rules means that the order of the top 12 finishing drivers in race 1 will be reversed. For instance, the winner of race 1 will start 12th in race 2, and similarly, the driver who finished 12th in race 1 will start from pole position in race 2. All the other drivers that finished behind P12 will start race 2 in the position in which they ended race 1. Now, in the case of a 3-race weekend, the procedures for the first 2 races will remain exactly the same. However, for race 3, the starting position will be determined by the second fastest lap time set by all the drivers in the qualifying session that took place on Friday. This means that the driver who has the fastest lap time among the second fastest laps of all the drivers will take pole position for race 3. The driver with the most points at the end of the season will be declared as the champion. Similarly, the driver in the junior category with the most points in the class at the end of the season will be declared as the junior champion. In the case of a tie in points for the championship, a countback rule will be applied and the driver with the most race wins will be crowned as the winner. And also, if both the drivers have the same number of points and the same number of race wins, that the one with the maximum number of podium place finishes over the course of the season will be declared as the champion. Well, it seems like a really exciting championship is on the cards for this year. The level pegging field will genuinely test every single driver and only the cream will rise to the top. But who's going to come out on top? Who's going to be the champion? Well, the answer to this will only be found out when the red lights go out and the racing action commences.
The first round of the Volkswagen Championship began with the first 3 races of the season at the Curry Motor Speedway in Coimbatore.
After the usual free practice sessions, qualifying was held on Friday, where all the 18 drivers faced off for the all-important pole position. Jeet Jabak from Hyderabad eventually bagged the pole with the slightest of margins, as the top 3 was separated by just 56 thousandths of a second. Prateek Sonavne and Saurabh Bandipadhyay qualified 2nd and 3rd respectively. Now, all the eyes were on the first race taking place on Saturday. It was a good getaway by the pole sitter Jeet, but the start truly belonged to Anmol Singh Sahil, who jumped all the way from 4th to 2nd place. Prateek, who was expected to give a tough fight to Jeet, had slipped down to 4th. From that point onwards, it was majorly a processional race for the top 4. However, there was a lot of action going on for the remaining places. Last year's junior champion, Shubhamoy Ball, had a shocker after he was spun out by Ayush Denwala on lap 2. Ayman Sadat, the junior from Bangladesh, was showing a lot of good racecraft while progressing up the ladder. Anuranjan Velmurugan from the pro category was also showing a lot of promise after underperforming in qualifying. However, the race belonged to the top 4, who were in a class of their own, pulling away from everyone. Eventually, Jeet took the checkered flag and took his first victory of the championship. Anmol and Saurabh finished 2nd and 3rd to join him on the podium. And Jeet also got the extra points for the fastest lap of the race. Now, the attention turned towards the second race of the weekend. Race 2 means that the reverse grid rules will be applied. So Jeet, the winner of the first race, actually started the race all the way back in P8, while Virat Jala, who finished 8th in the first race, will start on pole. At the start of the second race, pole sitter Viraj couldn't capitalize and he lost ground to Avik Anwar. Ayman Sadat, who had impressed in race 1, again had a superb race 2 And not only did he make the most of his grid position, but he also fought very closely for the race win. Championship leader Jeet made good progress as well, and by finishing 5th, he made sure to bag a good haul of points at the end of the weekend. Avik was the eventual winner after a close fight with Ayman, and Viraj, who started on pole position, eventually finished 7th. A good tough learning for the junior. Saurav, who finished on the podium for the first race, couldn't quite get it right this time around, and he finished in 11th. The fastest lap was registered by Shubhamoy Ball, who made a good comeback in race 2 after registering a DNF in race 1. After the reverse grid start in race 2, things were back to normal in race 3, where the grid positions were decided by the second fastest qualifying lap time set by all of the drivers on Friday. Once again, Jeet started on pole position, but this time he had Prateek alongside him. Once again, the race started very well for Jeet, but Anmol Singh Sahil, who had a crackerjack of a start in race 1, emulated that in race 3 as well, as he overtook both Saurav and Prateek. From there on, the order was set and the race became pretty processional for the lead group. The top 5 were pulling away from the rest of the pack in a race that was much less eventful than the previous 2. Ayman Sadat was pretty much on it throughout the weekend, and by finishing 6th once again, he emerged as the top junior driver of the entire weekend. Jeet eventually won his second race of the championship as Anmol and Prateek picked up the remaining pieces on the podium. Prateek also registered the fastest lap of this race, and that gave him 2 bonus points. While 2 wins helped Jeet rocket to the top of the points table with a total of 135 points, Anmol was not far behind with a total of 128 points as he achieved 3 podiums on the trot. He was the only driver on the entire round to achieve this feat.
In the junior category, Ayman Sadat led the way handsomely, with Viraj Jairaj Jhala closely behind him in the championship after round 1.
Inspiring stories, lots of Indian motorsports action, and along with it, a full-fledged championship. That's what the driving force is all about. It's time for us to wrap up today's session. We'll be back next time with a lot more action. Until then, goodbye.